By golly, I am live. At least I think I am. It was kind of a freeze screen for a second, but it looks like I'm up and running. Yeah, I was having some technical issues, so I decided to go live to see if I could actually iron them out, and apparently it did. I'm a little bit early, which explains why my armies of followers isn't here yet. Mrs. Thrash, hi, Mrs. Thrash. Mrs. Thrash just informed me that sadly Lonnie Anderson passed on, so been a lot of heavy casualties of late. I haven't heard of a cause of death yet. Individual Minds is here. He says, Ayo, I'm first. Ayo, you sure are Individual Minds. So good to see you. Welcome to the chat. Tracy is here. Says, hiya, guys. Chris is here. He says, good Sunday evening, Bob. Good evening, Sunday to you. Individual Mind says, yeah, I've heard a lot too. Yes, there's certainly been a lot of people that we're all very, very sad to have lost. Scott76 is here. Says, hey, Thrash, just got off of band rehearsal. What else is new? You're always doing band rehearsal and you're doing a heck of a job. Haven't seen many of your posts on Facebook, but you know what? You should post more on Facebook or do you? I haven't seen any of your stuff on YouTube in quite some time. I used to love those mashups of opening theme songs to TV shows where you would take a theme song from one show and overlay it on another opening credits. But my flock is everywhere. Here says hi everyone. Denny's here says greetings from South Carolina. Hey, I heard you guys are getting a nasty storm. Good luck to you. Wouldn't wish a hurricane on an enemy. Sean Innes is here. He says good evening all. Tracy says please, please, please hit the light button. Turn on your heart light. She means like, of course, button. Hit the subscribe button, put a comment or two in the comments, and give Thrash some love. Thank you. No, thank you. What means here? He says, hello, everyone. Hello to you, too. Gary Carpenter's here. He says, hi there, chaps. I'm back. Oh, and yes, all my wrenches, please give yourselves links to your channels and one for Individual Minds, too, please, by the way. Tracy says like button, yes, and Individual Mind says Ayo Tracy and everyone else. Kevin says thanks. I took down my. That's why I haven't seen you while you took down your channel. That would explain it. Well, I'm glad you're still here on mine. Denny says OMG, lightning messed up my Wi-Fi and my cable. I can jump off the page. Only watch. I'm going insane. I am so sorry, my lad. Tarple situation, as my family in Lancaster County would say. That's a tarple situation. My flex says an emojis, and I'm sure she says like, subscribe, and all that sort of rot. Gary says New Jersey had an earthquake. Isn't that crazy? Yeah, we had one here too a few months ago. Just a little, but it was just enough to wake us up. I thought a truck hit my house. Vladimir, sorry you took the channel down. Danny says Tuesday I'm getting all new cable equipment. Good. And everyone's saying hello and having fellowship. Thank you for the link. My flock links, I should say. I seem to be cut up. Cindy's here. Says hello, everyone. Hello, Cindy. So good to see you, my lady. And more people are filtering in. We're getting a good crowd so far. Again, I wasn't supposed to start for another 5 or 6 minutes, and already it looks like I have at least 7 people in the chat. Although, for some reason, my counts seem way off. There was one time it said I only had 3 people in, and I was getting comments from like 8 different people. So I don't know. Individual Minds said I should just call you Indy again. I stopped calling you Indy because there were actually 2 Indies for a while, but I'm going to go back to calling you Indy for now. Indy says, Waj, I seen your joke about the ant and panther that made me laugh. I have to check that one out. Gary says, R.I.P. to Jeannie Seely. Yes, R.I.P. to Jeannie Seely. Not entirely sure off the top of my head who that is. I'm sure she was an excellent person, though, and a heavy casualty. We lost Lonnie Anderson, too. Rest in peace, Miss Anderson. Had a huge crush on her when I was like 12, 13. Who didn't? Cindy says hello to everyone. Indy says, dead ant. The Henry Mancini bit. Yes, I do recall that one now. I think I actually saw that on the Pink Panther when I was a kid. It is post Thresh. I was going to check it out. You know what? I still will to get you the like and the hit, but da-dant, 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 and that's better than mine, which was Shamu, Shamu, the Kilika, 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 will Shamu, Shamu. It's nothing. There's actually a joke built around that, but since the punchline wasn't very good, I figured I would just cut to the proverbial chase. And Sarah says, remember YouTube forever broken. What do you mean agrees? Like our spirits, huh, folks? And Tracy says, Lonnie was a beautiful lady. She certainly was. She certainly was. And hey, she's with Bert now. Maybe they can iron things out at this point. Thank you for the link, Sister Sarah. And Christopher says, good evening to Mrs. Thresh, wherever you are, permanently off camera, but she's in the living room using the old style PC. She's a very PC person. And Kevin says, sorry, voice to text. YouTube took down my channel. I wanted to keep going. YouTube took down your channel. The fascists. Let me guess, copyright infringement, huh? They'll probably hit me for Shamu, Shamu, the Kilika will. Gary says, hi there, Mrs. Thrash and Mama Thrash. Yes, Mama Thrash is here as well. She's lurking in her reverse loft, which is what we refer to as the lower level of the home. I have a split level, and the bottom part is the reverse loft. We have weird names for everything in the house. I have a weird room, a big closet under the stairs, which divides the house in two. We call that the Harry Potter room. And another link. Tracy, thank you for the link. Your Lancelot link. It was either that or a link from the Mod Squad, or, well, you know where that's going. So anyway, I have trivia tonight. I have Three's Company trivia, which is promised. I also have the trivia for Hee Haw as well. I figure I would kill two stone birds with one rock. I'm working on the Space 1999 and UFO trivia. I gotta tell you, that's gonna be tough. I believe it was Teb, or I can't remember exactly who asked for that. It could have been Chris. It could have been Gary. Could have been you, Sean. Not sure who. But I gotta tell you, it's gonna be tough unless you come into that show to memory. Oh, Emily says you're early. I was having technical problems, so I decided to make sure I could actually function at all and managed to get right on. Ain't life a box of chocolates? Cindy says, what's the picture in the back, Thrash? This picture right here, you can't really tell because it's washed out from the light from my porch, but it's a bunch of old movie posters. King Kong, Attack of the 50-Foot Woman, Jaws, The Thing, both of them. And that was actually a gift from Mr. Led. Remember Mr. Led? I still see him from time to time, but anyway, that was a gift from him. He sent me that some time ago. Thank you for asking. This picture straight behind me it says Grandma's Kitchen. It was a gift from Mrs. Thrash ages ago. And let me just see. I'm going to skim down. Yes, I am early. A lot of people saying hello to one another. And he says, oh, man, my mom could answer these, but she is at the park with my son. But I'll try myself. Hey, I probably won't start until closer to 8. So if she gets home, have her join in. Gary says, Janine Seely was a country star. You remember Janine Seely? Mrs. Thrash didn't know her either. Terribly sorry. Tracy says, I'm just genetically saying, I'm just genetically saying hello to everyone as a whole unit. I am so tired today. I spent a good long time at my husband's rehab. So sorry, miss. I hope he's doing well this afternoon. So now I need rehab. LOL. They tried to make me go to rehab. And oh, Zoomerplex is here. Zoomerplex says hello. Zoomerplex, I promise you something, by the way. I was talking with somebody about Richard Corbin today. So it got me thinking I need to go through my old comics. I am going to find a comic to do a Wretched recap in this calendar month. I promise, hopefully this week. It's going to be a crazy week. I got a lot of stuff going on after work this week, but I'm going to try. Oh, put a pin in that for just a second. Remember, everyone, tomorrow, Retropalooza number 00, Destruct Zero or something. I forget. But Dave, myself, Pat McCormick, and Barry are going to be talking about the Superman incarnations, not just the new movie, all of them, including the comics. And you will have a Richard recap very, 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 very soon. Kevin says, I remember asking for Space 1999. Oh, so it was you, Kevin. Okay. Again, I'll do it, but it's going to be tough. Most of the trivia questions I found, I didn't know the answer to. That just made good fun facts. But I'll do what I can with what I got. Gary says, better late than never. Actually, everyone's early. And Cindy says, that's cool, Thresh. Thank you. I'm glad to hear that. Watchman is praying for Tracy's hubby. Emily says, what is Space 1999? You're kidding. Okay, you're kidding, right? I know you're not a sci-fi buff, but you heard of Space 1999. Martin Landau, Barbara Bain, Gary Anderson, Sylvia Anderson project. Really cool, if not quirky, special effects. Maya, the insanely hot, shape-shifting alien. I'll put a pin in that. Yeah, she was Maximilian Schell's daughter, Catherine Schell. Oh, that would have been a good trivia question. No, because Maximilian Schell was never in Space 1999, so heck with that. Oh, I just jumped again. Gosh darn it. Generically, not genetically. I like genetical better. Eugenics. I'm eugenically saying hello. I only say hello to important people. I shouldn't even kid about that these days. And let's just see what else we got going on here. Duplex says a sci-fi series on TV in the 70s. Exactly. Gary says, it's a sci-fi show that was made in the 70s, set in the future. You're on a moon base. It was not the BBC. It was the other British network, the one that also gave us the Muppet Show. ITV? But yeah, the other British network said he asked Tracy to take care. Sounds tiring. I'm sure it is. Denny says, yep, hello, all. I'm trying to stay awake. Long day. A lot of that going around. And I think, I know I jumped again. But a lot of people saying hello to one another, so I'm just going to skim through that. Gary says, Lonnie Anderson is dead. I didn't know. Just found that out. Mrs. Thrash told me that just as I was going live. Very kind of her. Emily says, I never watched it, but I'm game to try to answer. Emily, you're one of the good ones. It's tough to do trivia for a show you never watched. But again, I'm multiple choice, so it can still be fun. Christopher says, Space 1999 is like Star Trek. Emily, there are some crossover. I'll definitely give you that. Although their guns look like staple guns. Cindy says, she was Jennifer Marlowe, such a create character for her, Gary Carpenter. And Emily says, only heard about it on here, which she finds humorous. Oh, music, movies, more with Brian is here. He says, hey, Thrash. Hey there, music, movies, and more with Brian. Please, somebody grant him a link. So good to see you. My brother, hope all is well your end. Gary says, Cindy, she and Linda Carter were in Private Eyes. Yes, I remember that show. I do recall it. And Zuplik says she wasn't Maximilian Schell's daughter. Catherine Schell, Maya on Space 1999. I'm afraid she was, Zoop. I know. It's never good to bet against you, but I just saw that when I was actually going through some trivia files. I was looking her up, and yes, she's Maximilian Schell's daughter. At least she thought she was. Gary says, so did I, but I wasn't on long. And Cindy says they didn't get it a chance. They didn't give it a chance. Oh, yeah, Private Eyes. Yes. No, I think it only lasted a few episodes. Indy says, y'all know whenever I talk about old movies to older people, they either have not seen them or they say, wow, you've seen that movie, LOL. Yeah, that happened. Oh, and speaking, here's the other Indy. It's Indy. It's Indy Sunday. Indy says, yes, Bob. It was ITC. Thank you. I knew it was ITC, but for some reason I knew it was the I and the T, and I had a 1 in 26 chance of getting it right. And thank you, Tracy, for the link. And what do you mean with BRB? And Zubik says, yes, she wasn't. Okay, now you're messing with my mentals. Okay. Indy says, she isn't, Bob. Her parents were Hungarian nobles. Could it be my source was wrong? Because you know what, Superplex? I was a fool to bet against you. There's no way in hell I'm taking on you and Indy. If you guys both say Catherine Shell is not Maximilian Schell's daughter, I'm going to have to respectfully bow out. Were they cousins? Was he an uncle? Were they romantically involved at some point? Ew. Moving forward. Okay, I concede. I don't know. And let's just see. And maybe Maximilian Schell was also of noble blood. And Sean says to Superlex Thrash Pondo, well, according to IMBD, she is not his daughter. Okay, yeah. Whatever source I went to must have been wrong. It's a good thing I didn't use that as a trivia question, huh, guys? Superplex, I concede. I should have known better. But isn't that how you and I met? I posted a fun fact on one of Dave's posts, and you like vivisectioned me for being such a poser and a fanboy. In a nice way, of course, Superplex, in a nice way. Gary Carpenter said, who, Sean? Catherine Shell from Space 99. She played Maya, the shape-shifting alien, who up until just now I thought was Maximilian Schell's daughter. And Zublik says, not even that. I'm going to give up at this point. Emily Miller says, just the same last name. Apparently. Did they at least spell it the same? Daddy says, Lonnie Anderson gone. I'm heartbroken. She was my first. I'm not even going to finish the innuendo. Indy says, Myra Shell is his sister. Maybe that's what's up. Maybe. When I go off the rails, you can actually give yourself a migraine trying to figure out why I got there. It's like the guy who tried to put the works of Emily Bronte in order and had a nervous breakdown. Into the mind of madness. And I know it's into the mouth of madness, but it's not my mouth you're going into, it's my mind. Zublik says, not sure. And oh, yes, you're not sure how our little rivalry started. I would almost bet. I remember there was something ages ago. There was some fact that you called me on, and I looked it up, and you were right. And I should have learned from that experience. And then he says, more interestingly, how did you get Myra out of Myra? I don't know. They call the wind Mariah. The other two, I believe, are Joe and Tess. Way out here, they have a name for. I'm going to get another copyright strike. And that song is so far out of my range. Home on the range. And where was I? Christopher says the actress who played Drusilla on Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Barbara Bain, is her mother. No kidding. That's a really fun fact. And let's just say, Zublik says it was a stage name, Emily. Okay. So there's no way they could be related. I did that with somebody else once. I thought two people were related, and they said, no, this other person, that's not their real name. You know what I think it was? Nah, why speculate about how it was wrong years ago? That could take us all day. That'd make a fun show. Thrash Pondo's greatest mistakes. I'm getting depressed just thinking about it. Sean says points awarded to Superplex for future use. Fair enough. Oh, and apparently Emily says Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and half of Alaska. I don't know. I don't know. Garrett Cameron says, I don't know if I can make it. My phone will be turned off after midnight. I can pay the bill. My sister van has broken down. Dude, commiserations. Car trouble and phone trouble are two incredibly frustrating things. As Mrs. Thrash, she has both. Thankfully, we've settled the car thing, but she was going to go to the phone store today to try to get a new phone, but she was running errands with my brother-in-law. Cindy says Lonnie Anderson had a poster too, like Farrah Fawcett. Jimmy Walker thought Thelma Evans on Good Times should have one. The brass said no. She was breathtaking. She was absolutely breathtaking, and I would have bought one. So that's a pity that the brass said no. And of course, Penny went on to become Janet Jackson. Well, she always was Janet Jackson, but I'm just saying Penny went on to have many posters and one career ending event at a Super Bowl. Well, not ending really, but just disrupting. Tracy said, I just met a girl named Mariah. Mariah. Thrash, stop. Gary says, Tracy, how did you solve that problem? Asked her name, I guess. And he says, since I've corrected most of your errors, maybe we can get work as a double act. Oh, like Gavin Costello? That could work. That could, or like the Smothers Brothers. You know, Tommy, Tommy. I yelled fire when I fell into the chocolate because no one would have come to rescue me if I had said chocolate. Emily says Maria, not Myra. Ah, okay, okay. I have it stuck in my. I don't know why I keep saying Mariah. Mariah Carey. They call the. I don't know. All right. I have a mental block. There's that sweetener aspartame, which isn't called aspartame. My wife corrects me every single time I say it. What? Aspartame, but I call it aspartame. I don't know why. She just corrected me again, and all I can think of now is aspartame. My mind can only hold so much. Gary Carpenter says, I didn't think you would catch on. I know because I'm a zipper. Cindy says she was beautiful, Thresh. She truly was. She was a truly beautiful person. Problem was, they wanted everything to go to Jimmy Walker, and anything that would have staged him was a nay. Sort of like Gary Coleman in Different Strokes. Michael was far more talented than JJ Walker. He was a song and dance man. He was great, but again, they didn't want anything to take away from JJ. Cindy says Thelma was played by Bernadette Stannis. I knew it was Bernadette. I couldn't remember the last name, and I want to take a stab at it. I've been wrong so many times tonight. I just don't have the strength. Trey says, Thrash, it's how you solve a problem like Myra from The Sound of. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Dun-dun. I haven't seen The Sound of Music in so many years. I'm surprised. The only thing I remember actually is the song where they all sing about goodnight and blah blah blah, and where Christopher Plummer tears the Nazi flag at the end of the movie. That's pretty much all I remember about the movie. Good night, farewell, Avitas, and goodbye. I'm going to get another copyright strike. Hey, that was pretty good. Gary says, Cindy, there's only 3 cast members left from everything. Everyone's dying everywhere. Sean says, hello, Mrs. Thrash. Cindy says, oh my Gary, I hadn't noticed that. Well, it's certainly getting there. And he says, just so you know, I can't play the double bass for. Yeah, we could not do a music act. We could not do a music act. But feel free to make fun of me. It's funny because everybody loved Tommy. I mean, the other Smother, I'm afraid to say his name for be taken out of context, but the other Smother had a very successful career as well. He was in Casino, but everybody loved Tommy. Tracy says, message retracted, and message retracted to you as well. Chris says, I love The Sound of Music. It's a great movie. I don't think I've, oh my God, I don't think I've seen it since film school. And that was over 30 years ago. Mother McCree. Tree says, Maria, I just met a girl named Maria. I'm gonna have to go back and call this the Mariah channel. Maria. How to marry a millionaire. And Sean says, you mean Kid Dynamite? Yes, I do mean Kid Dynamite. And that probably just broke my speaker. And Gary says, who didn't? I'm guessing it's a line about the Sound of Music or having a crush on Lonnie Anderson. And Emily says, I thought John Amos was an attractive man. Those cheekbones were to die for. Yeah, he was buff too. He was buff too. Yeah, he was a great actor and deserved better. He deserved better. He thought it was going to be another Father Knows Best, only more of a badass father. And within the first year, it was all about JJ. It was sort of the McLean Stevenson conundrum, where he thought it was going to be MASH was going to be like Sergeant Bilko or McHale's Navy, and it was the continuing adventures of Captain Pierce. Cindy says, "Rock you to your socks, rock you to your socks." Michael Evans. Is that one of the songs he sang? I honestly don't remember. Oh, and the guy who played Booker, the handyman. What is his name? I was watching it. They were having a marathon on one of the channels that Mr. Thresh and I get. I mean, we watch it because we both loved the show when we were kids. He was a stand-up comedian in like the 60s and 70s. Even did an episode of All Things Night Gallery. Great guy. I can't think of his name to save my life. And Gary says to Emily, he was in Beastmaster and Conan. That's right. Oh my gosh, he was. He was also in Die Hard 2, I believe. And he says Richard something or other. Cindy says he reminded me of my dad, Emily. So that would be yeah, I can see that. Sam Neill reminded me of my father. Denny says Ozzy, Hulk Hogan, now Lonnie Anderson. Yeah, it has been a rough week. Superbook says, doesn't ABC show The Sound of Music every year? Watch a movie on network television. Now we're living like animals. And actually, it's NBC. See Rule 1. And Emily says, I vaguely remember him in those movies. Gary just never got into this, guys. And he says, John Amos was not in Conan. No, that was he wasn't Beastmaster. Conan, now that you mention it, Conan was I know you were on So What You Did. No, that was I got you there, didn't I? That was James Earl Jones. Tracy says, I'm still very heartsick about Ozzy Osbourne. God, I love that guy. He was so great. He had such a sense of humor, too. He certainly did. Cindy says, Johnny Brown. Thank you. And he also says, Johnny Brown. Thank you both. And Gary says, I thought he was. Yeah, he was on Laugh-In, too, if I remember. Yeah, he was in Laugh-In. Yes, he had a recurring character in Laugh-In. And Gary says, Tracy, heavy metal music gives me a headache. What doesn't? And Zublik says, let's do a review of movies that have become annual traditions on TV. Again, I don't watch movies on TV if you want. My personal favorite, though, would have to be Wizard of Oz. Entry says, Gary, country music gives me a headache. Some of it I can certainly see. John Doe is here. Hey, John, what's going on? John Doe says, what you gonna do when Hulkamania runs wild on you, brother? I'm gonna call The Rock. That's all I can think of off the top of my head. Emily said, a lot of people saying hi to John. Emily says, Cindy Carroll O'Connor reminded me of mine in looks and mannerisms. He was more Archie Bunker. He looked remarkably like my father-in-law, too, by the way, just so you know. Donald Sullivan, rest in peace. He was a badass, too. He was in World War II. And he was just a stand-up guy. God rest. Christopher says Janet Jackson called him Buffalo Butt. Yes. Yeah. And City says John Amos was a professional football player. He was, which is ironic because Thelma ends up marrying a football player. And he says, was that a cat with asthma, Bob? Yes, it was a cat with asthma, chasma. And Gary says, Tracy, when you must not like Johnny Cash. Oh, then you must not like Johnny Cash. You know, I was just talking about Johnny Cash. You know, my grandmother would not let him when he had his show. My grandfather liked the Johnny Cash show. My grandmother wouldn't let him watch it. The man did drugs. Tracy says, I can't stand modern music. Ugh. From this century, ew. But I do like old country music, old folk music, anything by the Carters, yes, anything by these new people, no. Actually, Shaboozie's pretty good. I like Shaboozie. And all right, that not gonna waste another drop of whiskey on you is very catchy. And that Post Malone, Waylon, not Waylon Jennings, Waylon Morgan song, again is catchy. So I must admit, I have a couple of guilty pleasures, but generally speaking, music from this century is air. And Emily says, love Johnny Cash. He was a great man. Hello, I'm Johnny Cash. And Gary says to Christopher, that was a funny line from her. Yes, it was. Oh, look who's here. Barry is here. Says, hey, buddy, tomorrow night, Superman, Retropalooza. Done and done. Yes, Barry, so great to have you here with us. Somebody please give Barry a link. And yes, Barry and I, along with our friends Pat and Dave, are going to be on tomorrow, 8:30 Thrash Time, to talk about Superman in all incarnations. And I just jumped again. Hold on. Oh, it's because the entire world is saying hi to Barry. John Doe says heavy metal was made by mistake because the guitar player lost his middle and ring finger from the first knuckle. That's too crazy a story to not be true, John. I love it. Okay, Anthony Jordan, movies and gaming is here. Hey, Anthony, welcome to the party. Good to see you again, my friend. Welcome. Says, I watched the Amazon Prime War of the Worlds. It was unspeakably bad. Like the trailer said, it's worse than you can imagine. Is that the one where they look like three-legged spiders? I saw that wanting to love it so much, and I could not warm up to it. The only thing that I thought was interesting was they added the whole post-apocalyptic segment at the end, where you can't call it terraforming because it was being done by the Martians. The Martians were margiforming Earth, so no crops were growing and people were like starving. And I thought that was an interesting angle. But other than that, so yes, I do concur. If we're talking about the same thing, by the way, Anthony, so glad you could make it. Welcome to the party. Emily says Cindy he mellowed a bit with age. He had mixed nieces and nephews and a lesbian daughter. So I'm guessing Cindy said something about someone. I lost the thread, but good to know. And Kevin says, anybody else watch video about San Diego Comic Con? Great stuff this year. Haven't. But I'm glad they had a good time. Christopher says, good evening to BK. Brian says, I just posted a video about Lonnie and thank you for sharing this information with me. I'm going to check it out. I am going to check it out. Thank you. And Sean says to Anthony, yes, the trailer for that looked awful. There was another one for First Men on the Moon that looked phenomenal. I don't know how that one came out, but it looked great. I wish they would do more accurate depictions of the work of Wells. They always have to go rogue. Sometimes it works, but try to be more accurate. Entity says that would do it to Emily. Times have changed. They certainly have. And then we says Cindy, he was also voted for Obama. Nobody was more shocked than I was. And Gary says, Kevin, I didn't get to go to one this year. Oh. And he says, wow, that's full circle, Emily Miller. And Emily says, what time is Retropalooza? Somebody remind me tomorrow, please. 8:30 tomorrow, and please somebody remind her. I'll send you a message on Facebook. Danny says, oh my. And he says, he stopped loving her today by George Jones in 1980 marked the end of country music. Everything since is pop music with a twang. While we're on the subject, I found no official connection to this. Who else thinks that Taylor Swift was inspired by Juice Newton? You'd think that would be everywhere, but I can find no connection. So please, somebody back me up. You know what? Because life's been a little bit hard on me. Anthony says you're thinking of a different one. This is the new one with Ice Cube. Ugh! In War of the Worlds? Wouldn't be as bad as Tom Cruise, but they decided to go modern? No, you can't do a modern War of the Worlds. It has to be a period piece. But thank you for filling me in. Where they save the day with an Amazon delivery drone? Ugh. Oh, this is worse than the one with C. Thomas Howell, which, yes, I sat through. And Tracy's giving us a link. Thank you, Tracy. Emily says, my dad, Bob, he was a lot like Archie Bunker when I was growing up. Donald, I didn't know Donald when I was growing up. I met him when I was in my 30s, but he seemed a particularly affable fellow. And Gary says, Indy, I met, but I'm sorry for your father. And I hope he, oh, he's the one who mellowed over in years. Well, I'm glad your dad did. Thank you. I thought we were still talking about a celebrity, but I know to you, your father was a celebrity. And Gary says, Indy, I met George Jones once at Speed Street in Charlotte's Web. And he says, what's the category tonight, Bob? Three's Company. And oh, Angelina's here. Angela, hello. Says evening, everyone. And Sean says to Anthony, and Amazon drone saves a day. Barf. Yeah, okay, yeah, all right. A lot of people saying hello to Angela. Emily says, I can see the connection even if it isn't mentioned. And Angela says, what you all talking about? A number of things. Emily's father, John Amos, War of the Worlds, and all the people that have died in the past month. And Gary says, Lenny Anderson, RIP, Jennifer Marlowe. Indeed. And everyone's saying hello to Angela. And Kevin Scott said one announcement at San Diego Comic Con is a new Tron movie. I told you I met a guy who actually worked on the original Tron. Super cool dude. I have his autograph somewhere. It wasn't even at a con or anything. He was just in the restaurant and I pestered him. Sean says to Thrush Bundle, yeah, it seems that Ice Cube is just a talking head in the front of a computer, apparently doing nothing. Well, that's a waste of Ice Cube. And Tracy says, I don't really trust TMZ when they've said a few things that are quite incorrect. But what do I know? Just my opinion. And Emily says, "Why do you keep talking about Donald Sutherland when I mentioned Archie Bunker?" That was Carol O'Connor. Who keeps talking about Donald Sutherland? I was talking Archie Bunker, Carol O'Connor. My father-in-law loved Carol O'Connor. My father-in-law didn't look anything like Donald Sutherland. Hey, back me up in here. Did your dad look anything like Donald Sutherland? Absolutely not. Yeah, no. But he did when I meant Archie Bunker. Um, was Carol O'Connor, and that's what my father-in-law looked like too. So I'm sorry for the confusion. And Lisa Field says, "Hi, Thresh. Hey, everyone. I'm here. So good to see you. Great to see you, my lady." And a lot of people saying hello to one another. Indy says, "Wouldn't that be pestoing?" Ah, pesto. And everywhere you guesto. Him, Bob. We actually didn't serve pesto, believe it or not. We actually did not have a pesto dish. We tried a pesto chicken, it didn't sell, so they got rid of it. Let's see. Oh, Rachel the 28 is here. Says, "Hi, I'm late." Oh no, you're right on time. I was doing 7:30 for so many years. I don't blame you, but it's a good year. We're probably gonna start the trivia and when we get a little bit closer to 8. Angelina says, "I had gone to Orono yesterday to help celebrate my son getting the Mitchell Institute Scholarship Award when he graduated high school. Former Senator George Mitchell founded it 30 years ago. Cool squared. Congratulations. I'm very proud on his behalf, as is everyone else in the chat. So, yes, that is very, very, very cool. I knew George Mitchell, there's a bell ringing in my head. I had a really cool fun fact about George Mitchell, and I can't think of it to save my life. If I think of it, I'll blurt it out at some point during the show. But, hey, oh, my Tourette's. My wife's saying I have Tourette's. I don't have Tourette's, although if I could be diagnosed, it would certainly explain a lot. Teb is here. Oh my gosh, Teb, so good to see you. My brother Teb is here. He says, "Guess this popular 80s TV show by the characters Dorothy, Blanche, Rose, and Sophia Golden Girls." You'll have to do better than that. Thank you. Good question. Angelina says, "Thank you, Sean. There were a total of 200 students who received it this year." That's wow. Excellent. A Golden Girls, yes. And a lot of people saying hello to Mrs. Thrash, even though she's insulting me. As always. Angelina says, "Thrash Mitchell was the senator from Maine." And I had a fun fact about him. There was something about George Mitchell, and I can't remember. And I don't want to spitball because I don't want to confuse him with somebody else and insult both of them. It was a nice fact, but I can't remember what it was now. If I think of it, but yes, thank you. And he says trivia time, Bob. And do you guys want me to do the trivia now? I mean, we got a dozen people on. I don't know how many more people are going to pop in. It's after 7:30. Usually, people who are going to be here tonight are going to be here. So, why don't I do the trivia and then we'll just sort of like wind out the clock. Cindy says it's Mrs. Thrash, not Mama Cass. No, there's Mrs. Thrash is the Mrs. My mother is Mama Thrash, which she loves because she was actually a huge Mama Cass fan. Although my mother is certainly more petite. She's actually lost an incredible amount of weight too, by the way, since well, she's been on a very strict diet. I'm very, very proud of her. And Emily says that's 200 kids who might not have gotten the chance to further their education. That makes my heart smile. That's very kind words. Emily Kiblik says, "I think he was the peace negotiator for the Northern Ireland Accords." No, I mean like there was something local, like because he was a New Englander. I think he did something down here with another Massachusetts politician, maybe one of the Kennedys. I don't know. I when I heard Mitchell, I'm like ding 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 ding. I can't remember what it was, but I promise if I think of it, I'll mention it. So he says, "I'm 4'10" myself, Thrash. That's like my daughter's height. My granddaughter is taller than her mother. My granddaughter is taller than me. We don't know where she gets it, but yeah, she's like 5'9", which yes is taller than me. I was actually the tallest kid in my class in 5th grade. I never grew an inch. So yes, I'm going to start the trivia, and tonight's trivia is going to be on Three's Company, and I have a bonus. And the reason it's a bonus is because it's a really, really obscure trivia question, which is only marginally connected to Three's Company, but it was such a fun fact I had to throw it in. So without further, I'll do it. I'm not going to throw these cards away, by the way, because Hee Haw is on the back. So, Cindy says I can't get I can't get any shorter when I get old. It'll suck. Emily says my second daughter is 5'10", and Angelina says I'm 5'4", and my son is the same height. Blames me for his height. LOL. I can't do that with my mother. My dad wasn't particularly tall either. He's taller than me, but not by much. I don't know. I have some tall uncles, but anyway. Number 10. Three's Company is based on what BBC hit sitcom? Was it Till Death Do Us Part? B, Man About the House? C, Mother Makes Four? Or D, Robin's Nest? Sean says, I've compressed about an inch. Sorry to say. I shall repeat. Three's Company is based on what BBC hit sitcom? Is it A, Till Death Do Us Part? B, Man About the House? C, Mother Makes Four? Or D, Robin's Nest? And it seems like this was an easy one. I decided to start with something that I think everyone who's a fan of the show would know. Yes, it's Man About the House. Death Do Us Part is the British show that All in the Family, speaking of Archie Bunker, is based on. And believe it, the pilot episode is actually based on a different show, was Mother Makes Four, loosely based. And of course, Robin's Nest came up later. So, number 9. Prior to being greenlit, how many pilots for the show were made? A1, B2, C3, D4. You say my battleship. I shall repeat. Prior to being greenlit, how many pilots for the show were made? A1, B2, C3, PO, or D4? Okay. I'm gonna have to give a little wiggle room on this one because but anyway, I'll let some more answers come in. But guys, I was afraid that it would actually. I'll let the answers come in, and well, one of you is actually just flat out wrong. But some more answers are coming in. This is a good one. If any of you have seen there was a made-for-TV movie about the making of Three's Company. There was a lot of really interesting stuff that went on behind the scenes. What was his name? Brian Dennehy plays Fred Silverman, and he's amazing in it. Anyway, the answer I was looking for is 2. They made a pilot, pitched it, and it failed. Made another pilot, pitched it, it also failed. They made a third pilot, which was successful. So the answer I was looking for is 2. However, technically, it wasn't greenlit till after the third pilot was a success. So tell you what, if you said C, give yourself the answer. But the answer I was looking for was B, but that's only because I had a story behind it. But yes, technically, because it wasn't greenlit until after that pilot. But what I was referring to was they actually tried 2 other occasions and failed, which I believe there were also 2 other pilots for All in the Family with different children both times. Number 8. One of them, by the way, was the voice of Blood in A Boy and His Dog, which I find an amazing fun fact. But yeah, one of the original meatheads in the pilot went on to do the voice of Blood. According to lore, Summers was offered the part because Fred Silverman saw her where? Was it A, American Graffiti, B, Magnum Force, C, a game show, or D, The Tonight Show? Mm. There's another uphill battle. Yes, Tim McIntyre, who, Indy, correct me if I'm wrong. You've been so good at it so far. He also sings that sort of country song at the end. A boy and his dog could go fishing. At the end, the closing credits, that little upbeat number. I believe Tim McIntyre sings it too. Correct me if I am wrong. I reiterate. Oh, Brogu is here. You're just in time for part of the trivia. So good to see you. Christopher says John Ritter was on an episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I did not know that. I did not know that. Wendy said, what were the answer options? All right, I'll repeat the question. According to lore, Summers was offered the part because Fred Silverman saw her where? Was it A, American Graffiti, B, Magnum Force, C, a game show, or D, The Tonight Show? And John Doe said, I'm back. So good to see you, Johnny. Welcome back. I'm just going to skim down. Oh, Ritter did voice work on King of the Hill. That's funny because they're always talking about Tex Ritter, who was his father. Okay, the correct answer is actually D. In the made-for-TV movie, they talk about her in American Graffiti, and that was certainly bandied about. But Fred Silverman had seen her actually on The Tonight Show. But I tell you what, in the interest of total fairness, and because, again, we're doing this for laughs, not for prizes or anything, to those of you who really want to die on that hill, King of the Hill, for those of you who want to give yourselves a point for American Graffiti, go ahead. Because that's what I thought too. But then when I was reading up it, I read an article somewhere where Fred Silverman saw her on The Tonight Show. So, but according to this, the correct answer is D. And yeah, she was in Magnum Force, which I had completely forgotten. Number 7. Which of these was never one of the roommates? Was it A, Christine, B, Chrissy, C, Cindy, or D, Terry? Ooh, Mrs. Thresh. She knows, and I think she knows why. But anyway, I shall repeat the question. Which of these was never one of the roommates? A, Christine, B, Chrissy, C, Cindy, or D, Terry? Yeah, Thunder in Paradise. We will also accept that. Boy, you guys are good. And there's no alternate answer here. Of course, we all know. I'll wait for the rest of the answers to come in, but yeah. Yes, Christine was a John Carpenter movie, but it was also Cheryl Ladd's character in Charlie's Angels. So Christine was a replacement and to a blonde, but on a different show. And yes, Christine was a John Carpenter movie based on a Stephen King book. Number 6. Jack Tripper aspired to be a what? A, an actor. B, a bartender. C, a chef. Or D, a filmmaker. And Mrs. Thrush got this one too. She's playing off camera. I shall repeat. Oh, you know what? We'll get scores after this one too, by the way. Oh, and Gary says Brogu and I will not watch it ever. I like old cars, but I don't want one to kill me. Fair enough. I shall repeat. Jack Tripper aspired to be a what? A, an actor, B, a bartender, C, a chef, or D, a filmmaker? And John Doe says, they're supposed to be working on a sequel to Christine, but haven't heard anything more about it. Probably one of those Guillermo del Toro projects. Guillermo del Toro, who I absolutely love, but he's had like 15 movie remake ideas that would all be stellar, and they never get past pre-production. It's heartbreaking. Oh, Gary says that. I hope not. And yes, Tracy, it was Christine. And the correct answer was a chef. Although in one of the pilots, he's a filmmaker or an aspiring filmmaker. He's doing his he's trying to do documentaries and whatnot. He's going around with the camera filming in the house. I thought that would have been cute. It would have gotten old real fast. And have some cake, why don't you? Ooh, it looks like you haven't had dinner yet. Brogu says, speaking of killer cars, did any of you guys ever see the movie called The Car? I just was on DJ Anubis. We did a whole show talking about The Car. It was about a car that I believe was possessed by the devil. I thought it was a great movie. We just talked about it with James Brolin. Yeah, we did like an hour and a half on that actually. And yes, the car is in fact Satan, if not a demon. And Zublix is 3 out of 5. Benjamin is 5 out of 5. Sean says current Stephen King adaptations are The Institute and The Long Walk. I am psyched for The Long Walk. Angelina is 5 for 5. Zublix says you should stick to Hellboy. Hellboy is good, but come on, The Strain was awesome. You know, what was that one about the scarab? Yeah, I love Del Toro. Gary Kevin says, I don't want to get in a car that wants to kill me. No thanks. Cindy is 5 for 5. Tracy is Christine, correct. Indy says Plymouth Furies are cool, but Christine should have been a Chevy Impala. Impaler. You say Impaler, and I say Impala. So far, so good. I love Impaler. We'll call it Vlad, blah, blah. Lisa watched it yesterday on Prime. And Gary says both movies were great. And John Doe says Del Toro wants to do a Robotech movie, but the studio said no. Pity. I wanted him to do an adaptation of the Aldous Dracula Unbound because he loves doing vampire stuff. Rachel is 5 for 5. Lisa Fields is also 5. Tracy is 4 for 5. Christopher is 3 out of 5. Tab is 4 out of 5. Brogu is 3 out of 5. Kevin says C, which means you get 100%. Sean says 4 out of 5, but I said American Graffiti. So with an asterisk, no, take it. Yes, John, Kronos is the movie with the scarab. That was the first Del Toro movie I ever saw, and he was amazing in it. With it, I thought Kronos was a great movie. And Gary Carpenter is 4 for 5. And thank you again, John, by the way. It was going to bug me until I remembered it. And Zublik says Hellboy and Pan's Labyrinth. Pan's Labyrinth is an outstanding movie. And Cindy said, did you like it? Lisa and Emily says, no, the Chevy Impala is a supernatural car, and that's where it should stay. And Gary says John Amos is coming to America, and the sequel. Yes, he is in the sequel Coming to America. Oh, Starlog. Hello, Starlog. Good to see you again. Kevin is 5 for 5, and John Doe says that was his first American movie. Was it? I actually didn't know that. And Indy says I said Chevy Impaler, Emily. Get it? Impaler, not Impala, Impaler. Internet experts agree that it was, in fact, a killer car. I remember Monty Python and the Killer Cars. Watch out for the Killer Cars. Oh, Mark John is here. Mark John, good to see you. Hi. That was very kind of you to fill us in. Thank you. And Gary Carpenter says, my grandmother had an Impala. I had one too. It was like a burgundy Impala. I liked it until it fell apart. And Indy says, I said Chevy and Bella. Yeah, yeah. And Brogu says, I like the idea of a Chevy being an evil car and calling it a Chevy Impaler. Yeah, I can see that too. And Gary says, Hellboy and Hellboy 2, The Golden Army. And Cindy says, I loved it. I watched it many times. And John says, not to be confused with the 50s Kronos. No, that was a Roger Corman movie, I believe. And Cindy says, that's great to Lisa. I even like The Shape of Water. I like The Shape of Water. A lot of people said it was a ripoff of Creature from the Black Lagoon, and it certainly was, but I loved all the connections between that and Let Me Hear You Whisper, to the point where the estate of the person who wrote Let Me Hear You Whisper tried to sue. I thought that was far fetched because there were many, many differences. There were a number of points of similarity, but it's really a sequel to The Creature from the Black Lagoon in many ways. But I like The Shape of Water, and I thought it's more of a social commentary than the science fiction element. And the creature is in many ways more human than the humans, and well, we all know where this is going. And John does it. The 50s Chronos is the inspiration for Galactus from the Marvel comics. I can see that. I can see that. For some reason, I always get that one confused with War of the Satellites, and I don't know why they're two completely different films, but great fun fact. And he says Kurt Newman directed Kronos Pup. He did. It wasn't Del Toro. All these years, I've been crediting Guillermo del Toro for Kronos. Huh. I'm going to check out this Kurt Newman. I've been a fan of his all these years. I'm a little depressed. Thank you. Rachel says more trivia, please. Yes, I'm sorry. Our tangent at a tangent. Gary says Captain Kronos Vampire Hunter. Love it. And Brogan says, I saw the Fantastic Four yesterday, and I will say they did an excellent job on Galacticus. Angel says, where did you get the grandmother's babysitting service sign? It's cool. Mrs. Thrash got that as a gift ages ago. And then he says, I'm talking about the 57 Chronos, not the. Oh, but you didn't Corman produce it or something? Oh, I didn't think Corman directed. I thought he produced it. And I still don't know who Kurt Newman is. I will have to check him out. And Sean says, the first Del Toro movie I saw was Mimic Meh and The Devil's Backbone. And he says he did not. And Emily says, Brogu, I'm just not a fan of the new cast. Pedro Pascal is not all that. And John does says Del Toro made Kronos with the Scarab Beetle. Yeah, it was the other one. I got confused again for a second, but yeah, thank you. All these years I thought he had, so I imagine my disappointment if it wasn't. And Gary says, I'm not really a Marvel fan, but 67 Spider-Man I do like. I love the cartoon as well. And I got to move on with the last five, the tight five. So I'm going to move on now to the second half of the trivia. Number 5. The lounge frequented by the gang was known by what name? Was it Rosie's, the Bullfinch Pub, the Sanguine Penguin, or the Regal Beagle? I shall repeat. The lounge frequented by the gang was known by what name? Was it A, Rosie's, B, the Bullfinch, C, the Sanguine Penguin, or D, the Regal Beagle? I let some more answers pour in. Oh, Chris says, getting back to Space 1989, Barbara Bain was married to Martin Landau. Well, that just caused us a trivia question. I'm kidding, Chris. I'm kidding. Everybody knows that. And John Doe says, here's a question for you, Thrash. What was the name of the boat in Thunder in Paradise? Sorry, my brother. Don't know. Oh, Rachel says Jack's Bistro. You know Jacques. And Sean says to Windy, I saw it when it came out. Haven't seen it since. The correct answer is, in fact, yes. The Regal Beagle. The Sanguine Penguin was an idea I had for a casual fine dining establishment. I am not making that up. Number 4. Which cast member had been a guest star on The Love Boat? A. All of them. B. John Ritter. C. Joyce DeWitt. D. Suzanne Summers. I shall repeat. Which cast member had been a guest star on The Love Boat? Is it A. All of them. B. John Ritter. C. Joyce DeWitt. And D. Suzanne Summers. Soon we'll be making another pun. Berger said everybody and their mother has been on The Love Boat. You know, I actually had a game where you had to connect TV shows to cast members, sort of like 6 Degrees of Separation. So you name like 2 people and you have to get to them in 6 steps. The Love Boat destroyed the game because so many people have been on the Love Boat. I actually matched Pat McCormick up to Johnny Carson because of the Love Boat. So yes. John Doe says Thrash. It was Thunder. That's why it's called Thunder in Paradise. Thank you. Full disclosure, I haven't seen it. Full disclosure. Indy says surely all of them were on at some point. Actually, you are correct. One, not only were all the main cast members on it, some more than once. I was going to try to find one of the secondary tier, like the ones who weren't on it from start to finish. They were all after about like 8 cast members, I gave up. I go, everyone was on the Love Boat. So that's why I just put all of them. So yes, the correct answer is A. Although, technically, if you gave any answer, because yes, they were on the Love Boat. The most accurate answer, of course, would be A. But any answer would still be correct. Because I didn't say which of these responses would be most accurate. Yes, Don Knotts was on too. I believe you're right. I hadn't thought of that. I believe you're right. So anyway, moving forward. Wait, did I ask? Was that number 4? Yes, that was number 4. So number 3. This cast member was notorious for breaking the fourth wall on occasion. Was it A. Jack, B. Larry, C. Mr. Roper, or D. Mrs. Roper? And I shall repeat. This cast member was notorious for breaking the fourth wall on occasion. A. Jack, B. Larry, C. Mr. Roper, or D. Mrs. Roper? Okay, Tracy, you can't just say Roper. There were 2 Ropers. I'm teasing. Well, no, indeed. I said cast member. That's why. Oh, character. I'm sorry. You're right. Which character? But while we're on the subject, and Tracy, I'm busting your chops. I was teasing, but thank you for yeah. Milton Berlin Turner. Angelina says, "Love Mr. Roper." Coy smile when he broke the fourth wall was always made me laugh. Yes, I know he would be very coy, like. And yes, it was in fact Mr. Roper, and I thought it was adorable too when he would break the fourth wall. And I get it started out he would like look off to the side, like like he was trying to laugh at you behind your back, but he started looking at the camera and get away with it, so it became like his shtick. Number 2, self-awareness in a TV show can be funny. It can also destroy the show, but so you have to be careful. I'm glad they never did it on The Walking Dead. They did it. Oh my god, they did it on Northern Exposure, and I like was never able to watch it again. Well, I did, but it destroyed the whole mystique. But anyway, number two. Which of these actors was not considered for the role of Jack? Was it A. Michael Lembeck, B. Billy Crystal, C. Barry Van Dyke, or D. David Cassidy? I shall repeat. Which of these actors was not considered for the role of Jack? Was it A. Michael Lembeck, B. Billy Crystal, C. Barry Van Dyke, or D. David Cassidy? Angela, therefore you are? Oh, no, you were making a guess, I see. Sydney, I never knew that. I'm so glad they went with Howard Hessman, but I never knew that. Brogan, because Emily said so. And you know what? You're right. It was, in fact, it was D, David Cassidy. David Cassidy. He was actually up for a different show at the time. I can't remember what it was. I believe it failed, but no, David Cassidy was not considered, but all the others were at one point. Billy Crystal, if I remember the story correctly, if I remember correctly, Billy Crystal passed on Three's Company to do the part in Soap. But of course, anecdotes can sometimes be wrong. But either way, he wasn't on at the show. And the number one question is, which star from A3's Company spinoff had also appeared in the series itself? So you have to think about this one. Was it A, Jeffrey Tambor, B, William Pearson, C, Robert Mandan, or D, Pat McCormick? I shall repeat. Which star from a Three's Company spinoff had also appeared in the series itself? Was it A, Jeffrey Tambor, B, William Pearson, C, Robert Mandan, or D, Pat McCormick? Oh, and to answer your question, different Pat McCormick. Pat McCormick, I think, was still in high school at this time. I don't know. Our Pat McCormick. Yeah, Sean, didn't I share that Billy Crystal anecdote with you when we were doing one of Dave's shows a couple years ago? I was doing a show with Dave, and I could have sworn you were on it too, by my recollection. I had a flashback when I was coming with doing these trivia questions. Emily Mills, wasn't Tambor some crazy guy on Three's Company? Well, that will it answer your question. Yes, and yes, it was Jeffrey Tambor. He actually played three different characters. He actually the funniest was, because I can relate. The funniest was he actually played a mental health worker, but he was one of those people where when he gets something stuck in his head, he fixates on it. And it was the old song, Three Little Fishies, and they swim and they swam all over the dam, or something like that. And he goes, basket case. And they're convinced that he's actually an insane person when he was actually there to actually help an insane person. It's actually very cute. He plays some dirty old man who's obsessed with Cindy, and I forget the third part. But yes, he actually did 3 episodes. Oh, look, we've already got some scores. I better start paying attention to what I'm doing. Emily says Benson was the spinoff. No, Benson was a spinoff of Soap. The spinoffs of Three's Company were Robin's Nest and The Ropers. And let's just see here. Superplex is 4 out of 10. Angelina's 10 out of 10. Not too shabby, not at all. Excellent. Very proud of you. Gary says, I must have. It's been a while since I've seen it. Sean says, not sure. I appeared on one of David Member's streams about 1.5 years ago. It could be. Let's go with that then. Watching Meet is 10 for 10. Yay. Brogo is 10 for 10. Excellent. Tracy is 9 for 10. Splendid. But wait, there's more. Yes, I do still have the bonus question, but people started giving me scores. So you could add to your score if you want. Emily is 8 for 10. Gary's 8 for 10. Lisa Field is 9 for 10. Sean says, wait, so what was the last answer? Oh, Jeffrey Tanmore, A. Teb is 9 for 10. Christopher is 5 out of 10. Emily says, I knew that, Bob. I was replying to Gary. And I know you did. I'm playing along. I couldn't resist biting and answering myself. Cindy says, a dentist with Terry. That's yes. Thank you. Yes, he also plays a dentist. Rachel is 10 for 10. Brogan says, I remember watching Soap late at night, and I was a little boy, and I thought it was a very adult themed show. It really was. But there's a subplot. There's a subplot where Richard Richard something or other, is abducted by aliens, and I was obsessed with anything science fiction. So I used to want to watch it, and my mother thought it was too adult for me, and I used to try to watch it anyway after I got my own television. And there's that. All the other subplots really didn't interest me. Although the one where that Bayo kid got taken by a cult was a little interesting as well. I like the guy with the mannequin. Ventriloquist dummy, not a mannequin, but you know what I meant. But anyway, the Richard Mulligan. I was going to drive me nuts. Richard Mulligan was abducted by alien. Zzz. And Sean is 9 for 10. And Tab says Three's a Crowd. The Three's Company spinoff was based on Robin's Nest. I said Robin's Nest, didn't I? Yes, I meant Three's a Crowd. Thank you. Formers Content is here, says Hi Watch. You just missed the trivia. Formers Content, you can watch it in replay. Sean says thanks to Superplex. Gary says Brogu, it was the first show for Billy Crystal. He was supposed to be on Saturday Night Live's premiere episode, but was bumped. But he did do many episodes. He was actually the permanent host for one entire season. And he says 9 out of 9. My bladder thought your 10th question wasn't worth the time. Give it to you. Take the point. Kevin is 8 for 10. Emily Miller says Three's a Crowd sucked. Truly. Foremost Content says Soap had a ventriloquist. Of course, kids are going to watch it. Gary's it was also they do something like that. My granddad used to watch a show called Victorious, where there was a boy with emotional issues, and he kept his ventriloquist dummy. He was actually really good at it too. He kept a ventriloquist dummy, and anything he didn't have the strength to say, the ventriloquist dummy would say on his behalf. Usually, it was mocking him. It was a cathartic thing. They stole that directly from Soap, which I thought was amazing. A guy who actually went around with a ventriloquist dummy who made fun of everyone, including himself. Richard, thank you, Richard Mulligan. Thank you. And your bladder has no taste. Gary says, Tab, it was originally called Man About the House from England. And hey, Jay-Z is here. Hey, Jay-Z, good to see you again. Rest in peace, Lonnie Anderson. Definitely. Rachel says, skip, my Lou. City says, the two Richards. Sean says to Indy, how dare your bladder force you to from the trivia? A lot of people saying hello to one another. Angelina says, Three's a Crowd was not great. It was not. Gary says, I usually watch the Immortal News on famous people passing. And Gary says, Angela, what about the Ropers? I like that show. The Ropers certainly had its charm. And Z said Jack's girlfriend, Vicky, from their Three's a Crowd wasn't that hot, just saying. And he says, and the bonus question, Angelina watched the Ropers, and Emily says, Gary, sounds like a very morbid channel. And Bruce says, Lonnie Anderson was so beautiful. One of the main reasons I watched WKRP was just to watch her. Likewise, I am sure. And now, the bonus. I apologize in advance. Okay. Richard O'Sullivan, who played Jack in the BBC series Men About the House, featured in what often talked about film. It's a film we talk about on this channel many times. Was it A, The Omega Man, B, The Longest Day, C, Cleopatra, or D, Straw Dogs? I shall repeat. Richard O'Sullivan from the BBC series featured in what often talked about film, often talked about this channel, Thrash's channel film. A, The Omega Man, B, The Longest Day, C, Cleopatra, or D, Straw Dogs. Richard who? I told you it was a toughie. Richard O'Sullivan. He was a child actor in England who actually managed to reinvent himself, like Opie Cunningham, like Ron Howard. He's one of the few child stars who actually had a career, and he was Jack Tripp in the BBC series Man About the House. And Tree says, thank you for the fun, Thrash, and all. Love you guys. Nighters. Night, Tracy. Take care of yourself. Get some rest. Sean says, Omega Man, as we do discuss, that sounds the original IP. Well, actually, some of you got it. I'm not sure if it was an educated guess or if you just happened to know. It was actually, and I think I may have gotten it when I said child star. He was in Cleopatra. He played Ptolemy. And I remember I was reading something on Cleopatra because, I love the movie, even though it's one of the biggest commercial flops in Hollywood history. And they say it killed the Hollywood epic program, which wasn't reinvented until later. It actually created the whole Maverick filmmaking craze in the 70s because they weren't making big budget films anymore. And the blockbuster was, of course, reinvented by one of those Mavericks, Steven Spielberg, with Jaws. So crazy. But I was reading about Cleopatra and it mentioned Richard O'Sullivan was Ptolemy. He was like 13. And I went, Richard Sullivan from Man About the House? But yeah, he was a child actor originally. So yes, the correct answer is C. So, and whether you guessed or actually knew it, I'm very proud of you. So you add a point to your final score. And Jay-Z says, who's hotter in their prime, Lonnie Anderson or Pamela Anderson? Lonnie Anderson. And I think I may have missed a few comments. It says there's a lot of people of Irish descent in England. John Lennon and Paul McCartney are examples. I did not know about Lennon. I knew about McCartney. I didn't know about Lennon. Sean says on the bonus question. I told you. Why do they made it a bonus? If that was a regular question, you people would boycott me. I told you it was tough. Wait till you see the UFO Space 1999 questions. Yeah. But next week, of course, is Hee Haw. And I think I missed a few, so I'm just going to kind of pop in. A lot of people saying goodbye to one another. We really actually should start thinking about wrapping up here. It's getting towards the quarter of an hour. I like to wrap up around 1. Indy says, I prefer Jan Smithers to Lonnie. Thank you. I was way more superficial, I think, when I was a kid. I was a ginger over Marianne. I was looking for the women who will, let's just say, how should I put this nicely? Less uninhibited, more free with their affection, shall we say. Oh, a lot of people saying goodnight to one another. Yes. So anyway, while we're at it, I just want to say if I missed anyone's comments when we were wrapping up, by the way, earlier, I do apologize. Zuplik says Smithers definitely. I really enjoyed doing these shows. I know I haven't had much content. Zuper, I promise you, I will get a Wretched recap out in the not too distant future. Indy says, thanks for the trivia. You're very, very welcome. Anyway, I had a really good time tonight. I hope you guys all did too. We had some fun stuff, mostly making fun of me, but then what else is new? And again, I want to thank you for joining me every Sunday. And whatever you people do, don't forget tomorrow, 8:30 Thrash time. I know I'm going on late. 8:30 Thrash time. Join the Retropalooza gang. Join on Dave's channel, my channel, Pat's channel, Barry's channel. Join on all four. Turn on 4 of your devices in the house. I'll have all 4 of them going to us. But please check us out tomorrow in Retropalooza. Oh, Angela had fun. Thank you. I'm glad you had a good time. Emily says, good night, everyone. Hope to see you all tomorrow night. Please do. Jay-Z said, I'm done watching the Hulk Hogan AI Heaven videos. Sean says, thanks, Thresh Pondo. Hopefully I can make it tomorrow. Hope you can too. Brogan says, thank you, Thresh. Good night, everyone. I enjoyed coming this week. This is the way, the way of the Wash. Here, Waj, he's on your side. Good night. Waj says, good night, everyone. Have a great week. Zuplik says, thank you, T-Pawns, for another fun Sunday. Had a blast as always. Thank you for joining us. Gary says, sayonara, everyone. See y'all hopefully next time. Definitely, Gary. Christopher says, good night, Emily. Sean says, good night, all. Emily says, good night to Chris. Gary says, Sean. That makes 2 of us. And of course, good night, Mrs. Calabash. Good night, Mrs. Calabash, wherever you are. And again, sayonara, Mom and Papa. Anyway, guys. Oh, and Cindy says good night to Christopher Wilkinson, and Gary says good night, buddy. And again, guys, just thank you. Just thank you for being around. I can't tell you how much it means to me to have you guys all join me every Sunday. Have a wonderful week. Watch for new content. Hopefully, I'll see you guys all tomorrow. Be good. Be safe. Be careful. I'm looking forward to seeing you all again very, 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 very soon. Peace.